Hello and welcome to another episode in this series of philosophy of education. We have been dealing with the learning theories, and so far we have seen what are the learning theories, why they are important in setting the education curriculum, why they are important for the student as well as for the learner, and we have also seen how they can help the learning process. So we have already seen associationism as a learning theory along with the key figures and the principles involved, and we have also seen constructivism again as another learning theory with the key figures, principles, and how it can basically help in the whole education process. Today we shall deal with the problem solving theory, which is a cognitive approach to learning that emphasizes the importance of thinking and reasoning in the process of solving problems. So rather than focusing solely on memorization or rote learning, we see that this theory encourages learners to engage in reflective thinking. It also helps them to break down problems and also to find strategies to arrive at solutions to the problems. So this is basically grounded in the belief that learning is most effective when there is an active engagement with the problems that are relevant and meaningful to the learner. Now let's take a look at certain key figures who are involved in the development of the problem solving theory. So we have John Dewey and Edward Thorndike. Now John Dewey, we see, is an American philosopher and educator, and he emphasized the importance of reflective thinking in the learning process. Now, we see that in his work, How We Think, he described reflective thinking as a deliberate and purposeful process of evaluating information, considering alternatives, and making decisions. So you have evaluation of information, you have looking at alternatives, and then you have making decisions. Now he believed that education should be grounded in real world problems. So rather than students becoming just passive participants in the learning process, he believed that students should be active participants, and we see that these ideas of John Dewey laid the foundation for experiential learning as well as inquiry-based education. Now, Dewey's approach might involve students working on a project to design a sustainable garden for their school. So, instead of being told how to do it, students would be encouraged to reflect on what they know about sustainability, research, different gardening methods, and then plan their garden based on the information that they have. Now let's take a look at Edward Thorndike. Now he was an American psychologist who was known for his laws on learning. Particularly his experiments with animals. So in his law of effect, he states that responses to a situation that are followed by a satisfying outcome these are more likely to be repeated in the future. Now his research on problem solving involved experiments with animals. So for example, he would put cats in puzzle boxes and see how these cats try to escape from these puzzle boxes. And these experiments demonstrated that problem solving involved trial and error. And therefore, with this trial and error, we see that successful strategies are reinforced over time. Now, in Thorndike's puzzle box experiments, a cat was placed inside a box with a lever, and we see that the cat would initially try various methods to escape. Now, through trial and error, the cat would eventually discover that pressing the lever would open the door. And once the cat realized that by pressing the lever that the cat could open the door, after repeated trial, the cat would learn to press the lever more quickly, demonstrating the process of problem solving through experimentation and also learning from consequences. So let's take a look at some of the principles that are involved in this problem solving theory. So first we have identification. So this is in a way recognizing that the problem exists. So this involves trying to identify a gap between the current state and the desired goal, and understanding that something needs to be done to bridge the gap. So for example, a student might notice that their grades in maths have been declining. So recognizing that this is a problem is the first step in solving it. They must identify what is causing the issue, whether it is the difficulty in understanding certain concepts or whether it is ineffective study techniques, and this identification can then lead to analysis and then finding a solution. Now, once the problem is identified, the next step is to analyze it by breaking it down into manageable parts. So this basically involves understanding the components of learning understanding the components of the problem and identifying any underlying causes. And at the same time also considering the relationships between different elements. For example, continuing with the same example that we had of the less grades or the low grades in maths, now the student might analyze their study habits, the topics they find challenging, and the types of errors that they make in the tests. Now they might discover that they struggle with word problems and tend to make careless mistakes when it comes to calculations. So in this way, by analyzing what is the root cause, they can then work towards a solution. So after analyzing the problem, now the next is to generate possible solutions. And therefore you need to evaluate the solutions and you need to choose the most effective one. Now this might involve brainstorming. So you'll have to think various strategies and you'll also have to look at the outcomes. What are the potential outcomes of these solutions or these strategies, and then you'll have to also test the solutions in order to select one that best suits you or that works best for you. For example, we see that the student might come up with different strategies to improve their maths grade, such as spending more time on word problems, seeking help from a tutor, or practicing calculations more thoroughly. Now, they also would have to implement these strategies and they'll also have to monitor their progress to see which strategy is most important or most effective in improving their grades. Next, let's take a look at the application in education. Now, we see that problem solving theory has significant implications for education, particularly when it comes to promoting critical thinking, creativity, and ability to apply knowledge in real world solutions. Now, we see that if we focus only on the problem, we won't be able to reach anywhere. So we'll be only going around it over and over again. Therefore, it's important to look at solutions. So immediately one can help by looking at solutions and try to find a quick fix to the problem at hand. So now several educational practices align with this theory. Why? Because we see that one of the most important aspects of the problem solving theory is the critical thinking exercises. Now, these critical thinking exercises involves challenging students to think deeply about a problem. It also helps them to evaluate different perspectives and also make reasoned decisions. Now, these exercises encourage students to go beyond the surface level. So, go beyond surface level understanding and engage in reflective thinking. For example, in a sociology class, students may be asked to evaluate the effectiveness of different government policies in addressing climate change. So when this is presented to the students, they will have to analyze the data, consider the potential impact of each policy and justify their recommendations based on evidence. Next, we see that problem solving theory also involves case studies. Now, case studies, we see that present students with real world scenarios. And these situations or scenarios require problem solving. So by analyzing these cases, students develop the ability to apply theoretical knowledge to practical solutions and then to critically think about the complex issues. So for example, in a business administration class, students might be presented with a case study of a company facing financial crisis. Now, they would need to analyze the company's financial statements, identify the root causes of the crisis, and at the same time also propose strategies in order to turn the situation around. Another important aspect of the problem solving theory is real world problem solving tasks. Now, these tasks involve engaging students in solving real world problems that are relevant to their lives and to their communities. Now, this approach not only helps the students to develop problem solving skills, but it makes learning more meaningful plus connected to the world. So learning here is not just something that is happening in the classroom, but it's also related to something in the world. And as a result of it, students are able to understand and better grasp certain concepts because they are able to apply it to real world issues. For example, in a science class, students might be given the task of developing a plan to reduce waste in their school. Now, they would need to analyze the types and sources of waste, research possible solutions, and implement a plan such as setting up recycling programs or reducing the use of single-use plastics. Now, these are some of the applications that we have in the educational field. Overall, when we look at problem-solving theory as a learning theory, we see that it offers a powerful framework for understanding how learners engage with complex tasks and develop the cognitive skills that are necessary for effective problem solving. Now, by emphasizing the importance of identifying problems by analyzing their components and developing and testing solutions, this theory aligns closely with educational practices that prioritize critical thinking, creativity, and real-world application of knowledge. Now, when this is applied in the classroom, the problem-solving theory not only helps the students to build up the essential cognitive skills, but it also enables them to have a deeper, more meaningful engagement with the content. In other words, it helps them to not only learn something for the exam, but they learn for life. They are able to apply it to real world situations, and as a result of it, they are able to benefit more from the things that they are studying. So that is it for the problem solving theory. Next time around, we'll deal with connectionism as a theory of learning by looking at the key figures and also by looking at some of the principles that are there behind it and the application in education.